a company formed in 1917 under Edwin Prisham and Peter L. Jensen, didn't know that they would create something the world would respect for generations ahead. Magnavox paved the road for future gaming and produced the first home video game console. We take a trip back to 1972 when Ralph H. Baer created the first home video game console. The Magnavox Odyssey was this console's name, which wasn't highly successful due to poor marketing and the market for home consoles just barely gaining momentum. The Odyssey used removable circuit card cartridges, which had no sound. The cartridges just had numbers for a title and an instruction manual, which was a necessity to play the game properly. Ralph H. Baer had proposed a sound extension for the Odyssey, but was denied by Magnavox. Though the Magnavox Odyssey had also started the whole light gun experience, and had one game for it, Shooting Gallery. The light gun, which resembled a real shotgun, had detected light from the television, which then allowed you to play the game. For power, the Magnavox Odyssey used batteries and not a power supply. For the Odyssey, though, only 28 games were released, and only 330,000 units were sold. In 1975, a Pong console craze had started up, and the home video game consoles were gaining momentum. Atari had joined in on the fun, and Magnavox joined in on the bandwagon with the Magnavox Odyssey 100. The Odyssey 100 was an analog system which used 4 Texas Instrument chips. The 2 games that the Odyssey 100 played were variations of Pong, but were titled Tennis and Hockey. The Odyssey 100 is very basic, and the controls are located on the console, which are the knobs. There was no on-screen scoring, and you had to use 2 plastic cursors instead. Also in the games there was automatic serving, so you couldn't angle the shot. The Magnavox Odyssey 100 had 2 choices for power, 6 batteries or a common AC adapter. Though Magnavox wasn't going to refrain from releasing another console after the Magnavox Odyssey 100. Magnavox released yet another console in 1975 called the Odyssey 200, which was an upgrade from the Odyssey 100. This time around, it had 6 Texas Instrument chips, and it had added a third game, Smash. There was also some on-screen scoring, which used small rectangles, but it also still included plastic cursors. There was also a choice with the player count. You could play with 2 or 4 players. Then, in 1976, Magnavox wasn't going to jump the bandwagon quite yet and released 3 Pong consoles in the same year. The Odyssey 300 was the next upgrade from the Odyssey 200 and had more capabilities than before. This time it had several Texas Instrument chips, and each chip had a special function. There was also basic on-screen scoring, but Atari had overshadowed the Magnavox Odyssey 300 because of having better chips. Atari's chips were called Pong in a chip, and these chips were not available to other manufacturers, of course. Though the 300 had followed Atari's ways and had one chip controller controlling the major circuitry, this was based off the 1975 Pong system. The second Pong console released in 1976 by Magnavox was the Odyssey 400, and it played the same games as the 200, but it had an additional chip for some real on-screen scoring. The on-screen scoring had numbers that were quite large, and the score was only shown when the ball was lost. There was also a W for the winner's side when the games were over. For the final console that Magnavox released in 1976 was the Magnavox 500, which was quite advanced for its time. The Odyssey 500 had color graphics and a new game called Squash. Yet again, in 1977, Magnavox releases 3 more Pong consoles, but with noticeable improvements throughout each one. The first one up to bat was the Magnavox Odyssey 2000, and this time you only had one knob to control. Also, the Odyssey 2000 was considered one of the most cutting-edge Pong consoles of the 1970s. On second base was the Odyssey 3000, and it offers the same games as the Odyssey 2000, but with a new, styled, modern case. Though don't just think that the Odyssey 2000 just had a better case, it also had detachable controllers. This was a new concept for the Pong consoles, and the Magnavox Odyssey 4000 was going to be even more revolutionary. The Odyssey 4000 was on the third base, and this was the last Pong console produced by Magnavox. The Odyssey 4000 had 8 exciting video games, which were in full color. The Odyssey 4000 also had real joysticks, which made this one of the most cutting-edge Pong systems of the 70s. Though 1 year later, after Magnavox's last Pong system, they hit home with the brand new Magnavox Odyssey 2. Released in 1978 and is known as the Philips VideoPack G7000 in Europe, this console sold 2 million consoles in its lifetime. The Odyssey 2, otherwise shortened as the O2, followed in the footsteps of the Fairchild Channel F, which was released in 1976. The O2 also followed in the steps of the Atari 2600, and all these consoles had in common programmable ROM cartridges. The ROM cartridges had background and foreground graphics, gameplay and scoring, and music. The O2 also had a full alphanumeric keyboard, which was used for educational games, selecting options, and programming. To go along with the programming ability, there was a game cartridge called Computer Intro, which taught simple computer programming. The O2 also had 2 different models. The first model having silver joysticks, which were detachable, and the second model having hardwired black joysticks. The joysticks were designed after the standard design of the late 70s. For the O2, 2 men have to take credit for the games, graphics, and packaging, who are Ron Bradford and Steve Lanier. The instruction manuals and the packaging had extensive details in bright, vivid colors. The accessories had also included a voice module called The Voice, which was a voice synthesizer. In conclusion, the Magnavox Odyssey 2 had enormous potential in a wide range of games. In 1983, Magnavox released their last home video game console, but it was only released in Europe, which was the Philips VideoPack Plus G7000, and was only released in limited quantities. There was plans to release the Plus G7000 under the name of Magnavox Odyssey 3 Command Center, but was canceled. Company executives at that time decided that it wasn't technologically advanced enough to compete in the current home console market. The Magnavox Odyssey 3 was going to feature a real mechanical keyboard and a built-in joystick for dual joystick games. There was also planned expansions like a band modem, a speech synthesizer, and a laser disc interface for more advanced games. Ultimately, a major loss in the home console market also ended all plans for the O3 to be released in the US, which I'll cover in another episode. Though back to the Plus G7000. It had great capabilities like excellently tailored background and foreground graphics. The cartridges also had 16 kilobytes of both RAM and ROM. That was the last console Magnavox ever released, but it was a great console and had enormous possibilities. Please tune in for our second part, with our 3 interviews with Corey, Darvin, and Mark Bustler from Classic Game Room HD. Thanks for watching, and you just got smacked with the facts.